All right, how's everybody doing this afternoon? Ready to make this happen? Seeing some familiar faces in the crowd, so that's kind of nice. Makes me feel at home. My name is Greg. I'm with TransactionDesk. I'm with Instanet Solutions. We do offer the TransactionDesk service. Let me change this little screensaver out. We offer the TransactionDesk service that is provided to you by RANM, Realtor Association of New Mexico. Provides this as part of your member benefit. You pay your dues to RANM. You receive TransactionDesk as part of those member benefits. Free and unlimited. Because a couple questions that we've had before is, how is it different from .loop? .loop is offered by your association, by GAAR. That's a service, so you have multiple options. So if you have questions about that, certainly feel free to ask. I'm not intimidated by them. But though our services are free and unlimited, you get all of these as part of your member benefit to use as much as you can in terms of digital signatures, document storage, faxing, and transaction files. So that's really what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about TransactionDesk, your member benefit, and quasi-open forum. We definitely have some features we definitely want to talk to you about to make sure you fully understand it. Or getting the highest and best use of your member benefit accounts. Here are some topics that we've been kind of talking about. Some of the ones with the big stars next to them are things that most people wanted to talk about in the previous 5 or 6 sessions. I think we did 4 or 5 yesterday, and losing count, 2 or 3 today. Maybe this is the 3rd one. So, Authentisign, absolutely positively top of the list. I think that's probably what everyone here wants to know something about. Is the Authentisign, the digital signature service that's part of our platform. Some other features of that is, the signatures and initials, and maybe how to reset or resend invitations once things have been sent out. So certainly things that we'll talk about. Within transaction files, we'll talk a little bit about transaction templates, so you can learn how to set up routine information to be automatically included when you start new transaction files. Good opportunity there to be more consistent and more efficient when creating online transactions. Document management, big topic of focus. Once you have these completed forms or signed documents and home inspections, how do you get them back online? What's the best way to do that, and how to get them there, how to manage them there? If I have printed stuff to paper, how do I get it back to my online transaction? So these are just kind of some things, some topics that we talked about. Light versus Pro is always kind of a top of the list question as well, if that is something we want to talk about. But we will look at the Pro view probably closer to the end of the session, and something people wanted to talk about previously was tasks and kind of that task management, honey-do lists as you go through the sale process. So what is it that you guys want to know? I want to put it on this whiteboard, and I want to make sure that we address the questions that you came here specifically wanting to have answered. A lot of them may be on the board already, but if there's something that isn't there that you want to talk about, please. Okay. So maybe that's, because that one's, I think, a little bit more of a markup, and we could talk about that, how you can add some text fields within Authentisign. So that may be that way to look at that, and we'll talk about the drawing tools to add that kind of content to an online document. Okay. Okay. We will definitely cover, when we talk about Authentisign, we will gotta go soup to nuts. We'll start from our transaction file. We'll go through the 4 steps to create the signing. Then we'll actually see the signing for the participant, how they interact with it, create their profile, and go through that process. Absolutely. What else? What else is kind of burning questions that you walk in with? And to that, so kind of, everyone hear that all right? Just basically, the way that the signatures and initials and really content is kind of layered on these forms and documents that are coming back. And it's making sure that they get flattened correctly so that the form and the signature and the fields like that all kind of compress and layer correctly. And it really is, when you're printing this stuff to paper, really going to PDF first is going to be the best way to flatten it and then print it. And it's also really, and not get too geeky too soon into the session, but it really is the way that an internet browser talks to your printer differently than a PDF document talks to your printer. So it's the way that information is conveyed from the different places you're printing from. And good, bad, or indifferent, it really does, it's better for printing if you go to PDF first and then to print, rather than printing directly from a website. And you might find that just in general, printing off of the web, sometimes there's a whole bunch of headers and footers and things that show up on your printed page, and you're like, well, where did that come from? And it's really primarily the way that that browser is talking to your printer as opposed to like a flattened PDF document is speaking to it. Go back and then up to the front. Okay, we'll definitely talk about those flex integrations. Good question. I think really at that point it would be pulling those PDF documents, and however you're receiving them. It will show that both in document management and Authentisign how you can get these PDFs into signings as well as into your transactions. So really taking those documents and moving them from one platform to another and successfully doing that. So absolutely something about that. Sure. And more will get layered in, right? Some people yesterday were talking about EchoSign, and there's VeriSign and TrueSign. So there are a number of different choices, right? They make life easy. All right, so we've definitely got a nice list. We've added a few features to it, got some drawing tools. Maybe talk a little bit about the dot loop and differences between that and how to incorporate the two as you kind of move through those transactions seamlessly. And we'll work that in. So little framework to our session here. We will first start by going through and talking about how to access it, how to get into your account through Flex, through Random, through a generic page so you can feel comfortable logging into your account. We'll look at some additional Flex integrations, importing MLS detail into transaction files, one-click transactions. And then we're going to come in and we're going to start with the light. Is this view familiar to most people, using the blue icons in the light view, or some folks using the Pro view and orange icons? Anyone using the Pro view? 1, 2, 3. We will get over to Pro at the end. We'll kind of show the differences between the two, and we'll certainly answer any Pro view specific questions you have. I'm going to bore you a little bit with light. Authentisign. Doesn't matter if you're coming in from Light or Pro, those steps are exactly the same using the Authentisign service. So once we get out of Light and into Authentisign, that will be right down the alley for whatever view you're using. And then at the end, we'll go over to Pro and show all the difference between the two is just the number of functions. It is your member benefit. Light is less is more. It's just fewer functions. It's the most commonly used items. Pro is everything. It's all of the functionality they have access to. Some people, that's great. They want to wring every shred of functionality out of the program they can. Some of you just want to be able to get in, type up a form, get a signature, and store a document, right? That's light. Pro is when you want to manage tasks and get people into your file and merge documents and do all these additional functionalities within the platform. So we'll try to cover them all. Start with light, get you introduced, go to Pro, and show you everything else. Decent little outline to get forward and get going, and away we go. Oh. Free and unlimited. Free, free, free. All of our, is part of your member benefit. So both views are. We just typically start people off in Light, and then those who are interested kind of migrate to Pro as you kind of get accustomed and want those more features. And some of you will just stick in Light because that's got every commonly used thing that you could possibly want to manage your file. So it all starts really from Flex. It can start from Flex, I should say. So I have a whole bunch of open tabs at the top of the screen there. Maybe too many, but we're going to tab over to Flex. Best place to log in from Flex, I guess in my opinion, is under Daily Functions, Transaction Desk. I understand that there's also a similar link under the Products tab, but I would encourage you to use the Daily Functions Transaction Desk. I don't know what you mean. Like, I'm not as familiar with Flex. I'm in a browser session and showing Flex. So this is where we call it a single sign-in integration. So essentially what happens when you click here on Transaction Desk, you're going to be automatically logged into your Transaction Desk account. No requirements for additional usernames or passwords. You've provided that to get to Flex. So when you click on a Transaction Desk, you're seamlessly logged in. One thing to understand is all of your Flex MLS information is used to populate your Transaction Desk account. Your name, your office affiliation, all of your contact information, phone numbers, email addresses, websites, whatever's on file for you at Flex is pushed to us to populate your Transaction Desk account. That's the contact information that's going to flow through your transaction files, through your forms, through your authenticated signings. It all kind of originates here in Flex, pushed to your Transaction Desk, flows through all those Transaction Desk features. Additional integrations with Flex. I'm looking at the new listings. That's how I kind of got to this page. We're looking at the Details tab of this listing, and you see a Transaction Desk link here. This is what we refer to as a one-click transaction file. So you can actually start a brand new residential sale transaction right here from the MLS listing. Click on the link, you're logged into your account, a brand new residential sale file is started, and all of the MLS information, address, city, state, zip, legal description, tax IDs, they are all populated into that new transaction file. The value of that then is from your file, it'll flow through to your forms. So that's how the data flows through from one to the other. So that's Flex. And we'll talk about these integrations a little bit more as we go through, continue to reference them. But real quickly, it's Details at the top. There's here, it's actually in an additional. So if you click here under that little, there's really two places you can access it. Does either of those look familiar to you? So from the actual little right-hand side by the MLS ID, you can access it there through Transaction Desk, or once you're looking at the Details tab, I think is the key. Oh, here as well. Yeah, maybe it's a third spot. Nope, school and location. So maybe it's the view you're looking at. I'm in the, I think, dashboard view under the Details tab. I think that's why the details of the MLS ID. Transaction Desk. So obviously, it's there. There are places to access it. I just want to also show the additional two places where you can log into your Transaction Desk through Random. nmrealtor.com, you can access your Instanet Transaction Desk account. It's typically your NERDS ID and password, and you can log directly into your Transaction Desk account from here. As well as a generic page, because a lot of times if you're on a tablet or other kind of mobile device, MLSs and these other websites don't work as well to get logged in. So transactiondesk.com/login. It's just a generic login page that you can go to. It'll prompt you for your first name, last name, and password. I believe that password is typically your NERDS ID. If that's not what it is, just click here and have Transaction Desk email that password to you. And then you can log in, you can remember me, so you can log in kind of generically to access your Transaction Desk account. So again, there is, in terms of, it is a member benefit to Random. So if the admin is also a member of Random or can contact Random's membership department. We could talk to getting access for those folks as well, and potential different levels. Those are your agents. Gotcha. Gotcha. So what you can actually access for them. We do offer more functionality. The question is kind of an administrative position within an office, or if you are a qualifying broker or a sponsoring broker, there is additional functionality that's available to those membership types. Visibility into all the transactions being created, broker dashboards to create global content and to manage transaction files that way. But it is a membership type. So we'd have to either speak with Random about it or even here at GAAR to make sure you are that particular membership type so that you can log in successfully. We can help you go through that, but at this juncture in the session, we can come back around to that. No, absolutely available to import any listing from Flex into your TransactionDesk account. So we're going to tab over here. So we've talked about some Flex integrations for logging in under the daily functions to log in to TransactionDesk, as well as one-click transactions from the details page. And we've talked about how to get there from random and generically. So let's actually get there. TransactionDesk. The light view, most commonly used features. When you log in for the very first time, or unless you actively change this login page to the Pro, you will always log into this. Pro is just as much part of your member benefit as Lite. There's just more features, more functions within there. Real quickly, looking at this page, you can use all of our services as standalone or kind of individually. You can go into the forms, access one form, print out one form, type up one form. You can utilize it in that capacity. Same thing with documents. You can upload documents, store documents online. Outside of transactions, just any document that you want, unlimited free storage within the TransactionDesk account. Not necessarily. You could click here on Forms and access just the Forms library. In terms of you clicked here on Forms and could not get to the Forms library, technical support to type of computer, browser, operating system, or all kind of things we would need to troubleshoot to determine that. But again, if you go to Forms, I use Google Chrome. This demonstration is on Google Chrome. If you're using a Mac, I would encourage you to use Safari browser. Everybody, any Mac device, use Safari browser. From here, from the Forms view, you can click to print a blank. Or if you want to create the new, just click on Create New. It's going to show you all the versions of the form that you've created. We can keep it a standalone, but you can see that our program will routinely prompt you to start a transaction file, because typically you don't work with one form at a time. Typically you're going to work with sets of forms. I clicked on the little Save Diskette so that it will open up Forms Editor. I don't know at what point it failed for you at that, but depending maybe on the browser you're using. If you're using Internet Explorer or Firefox, you want to make sure that your Adobe Acrobat Reader is up to date and installed on the computer. Nice thing about Chrome is it kind of eliminates all those requirements for other technologies. Individual form. Forms Editor, type up an individual form, print, copy, or print, fax, authenticate. Once you type up the form, you can deliver it outbound in any of these ways. I'm under the File drop-down menu. You can save it, or you can export it to PDF, or you can send it outbound by email, fax, or to the Authenticate program. But again, it's just one form at a time. So if I started here with this, then I would have to go to find the next individual form, the next individual form, and really why we highly encourage the use of transactions so that we can put all these potential forms within one transaction file, type them up together, send them out together, and work with those features. Click on the home link. So let's talk about that. So each one of these, even Authentisign, can be used as a standalone. If you're typing up your forms elsewhere, you can use Authentisign, unlimited signatures as part of your benefit. So you can use it as a standalone service. The reason that we really recommend transactions, I'm going to click here on a file, is so that you can bring all of these features together. Forms, digital signatures, document management, all brought into one transaction file. When I click on transactions, this is kind of like what I've been referring to as the filing cabinet. These are all the transaction files that we've been creating in this account. Filing cabinet to access any one of these files. To click on the file name, just to kind of give you a sense of the file, click on the file name. It's going to show you all the details. We imported from the MLS to populate our transaction with details. We added contacts. We added a full set of forms to the transaction file. So instead of one form, we added 8 forms. We could add as many as we would like. One of, if not the, or probably the most essential feature of the entire platform is right here. I would like to. This phrase is essential to the platform because every time you see it, it's going to be in association with the drop-down menu. Use the drop-down menu to see the functions within that page. Auto-populate forms is probably the most essential function to make sure that your forms are going to be populated with your transaction details, dates, contacts, so that everything we add to our file maps and populates into our form fields to reduce the amount of redundant data entry and typing that we're doing. Once you type up forms, you can email them outbound, you can fax them out, you can print them out, so you can deliver them in this way. Hopefully, by the end of the session, we're going to have you convinced that digital signatures, primarily Authentisign, is the way that you want to get signatures on your forms and contracts, on your documents. What come back to you are documents. Once you have signed contracts, what come back to you are documents. That's the way TransactionDesk sees them, as documents. Signed contracts, home inspections, surveys, settlement statements, title commitments, deed restrictions, documents. I understand your frustration, but if you just kind of sit back and listen instead of trying to follow along, I think you'd be more, you would retain more. And then we can get on follow-up sessions to help you through one-on-one. So everyone who's kind of trying to follow along and looking up and looking down and looking up, and it's slow and the wireless is slow and this person's clicking that, you're slowing yourself down. And so I was saying this is like vitamin D. Just let it wash in, just soak it in. And vitamin TD, here it comes. We're going to deliver it, and we can follow up with one-on-one sessions. We'll make you the driver so that you're pointing and clicking. Because I get it, you're passive right now, right? Everything's passive. You're doing the best you can to probably stay awake at some point rather than taking it all in. So we'll get in follow-up sessions. We'll make you the active driver where you're pointing and clicking and click it and stick it, and it'll make more sense. So documents, everything coming back to you, different ways to get documents in, scanning and uploading, faxing, emailing, all of these ways to get documents back into your transaction file. So that's really the reason to use transactions, is because it brings all of these features together. The best way, the most efficient way to use transactions is to create templates. Top center screen, templates. Clicking on templates. Templates is the way to identify groups of forms that you want to automatically associate to a transaction. So we've created some in here redundantly, listing packets, buyer packets. Because when I say single-family buyer or listing, you automatically think of half a dozen forms that you need for that particular type of client. Is that reasonably correct? That's what a template allows you to do. It allows you to identify those forms. And then we'll actually start client files from these templates and automatically add those forms to that client file, saving time, saving energy, increasing efficiency and consistency. So every time you start the file, that set of forms is automatically added in. Here's that phrase again. I'd like to create a new template. But again, these are the list of templates you've created. Any interest in creating a buyer or seller or other type? I would like to create new template. Listing template, buyer template, land template, lot template, listing. Single family residential, listing, packet, template, form set, whatever makes sense to you. However you want to name it so that you can identify that, yep, this is the one I want to use when that particular client needs a transaction. That's all we're doing here is giving that template a name. Right? And this is going to be very generic, very routine. As I click here on the Save Diskette, the first thing we're going to be able to do is prompt it to add a set of forms. What forms do you want to have added to your file when you have that new single-family listing? I would like to add new form, little action arrow, so that we are going to be shown the library of forms. State forms, probably some local association forms. Maybe if some of you are lucky enough, your custom office forms. Anyone log in and see their office forms folder in there? A couple folks? Your office has gone through the process to program and post the forms in. The forms have to go through a programming process. My sense is if you wanted to, you could submit them to us and we could program and post them. For the office, there is typically a cost involved, but if it's a value, we certainly can do it. Depending on the form, you could also, as we'll see in about another 90 seconds, upload it as a document, so at least it's included in your transaction file. It might not be online and fillable, but at least it's in your file and can be included with other signings and included in a form packet. So, but to actually be here in this library, it has to be programmed and posted by us, by Instanet. So we're doing a listing. I'm going to click on the little plus sign to expand that folder so we can see all the forms that have been put into this listing folder. We can certainly look at all the forms or other folders, but I'm going to stick here primarily to add this set of forms from here. I've been asked that a few times. Because there's the numeric value in the front, then that kind of kills the idea of alphabetical. I don't know, you'd be surprised. People start firing numbers at me all the time. Probably the best way in that is to just type in the name. So if you're looking for a particular form, you can just type the name in here, listing or whatever, just some detail within the form name, and it'll take you right to that form. But, right. Sorry? Right. It highlights the form. Right. Correct. Yes, that is correct. But to the point at the front, we do it one time here, and you remove the requirement to go find these forms every time. You're going to do it one time here, and then every time you start your transaction, they're in there for you. So you just remove this entire requirement of hunting and pecking through the forms library. And you can add as many or as few as you would like. I would suggest if it's 50-50 shot, you're going to use that form, add it to your template so that you don't necessarily have to come back and get that form in the future. So if you want to start firing names or numbers at me, I'd be happy to add them. Otherwise, I'm just going to start clicking through to pick a few. Broker duties. I'm pressing and holding the control key. If you're on a Mac, I think it's command click. If you're on a tablet, it's a little checkbox to the left that you just click in to put a little checkbox next to the form to select that one. Short sale, they're 50-50, general addendum, maybe a counter offer. You can certainly just start clicking to select the forms that we would best want to add automatically into this transaction. I'm sure there's a property disclosure statement. Did I just go by it? Oh, see, somebody knows the number. Exactly. All right, so that's a good number. I'll throw a counter offer in there as well because listing, you might want to have one counter in there. Lead-based paint, that's a 50-50. You might want to add that one in as well. Right, so it would be, yep, it would be a different tab, but we could certainly go to that other tab if you want to expand the info sheets and you want. Nope, surely doesn't. So if maybe there's an info sheet for residential or something like that, right? So you want to certainly add in the forms that you would most benefit from. Kind of get the sense? I'm just going to, bottom third of the screen, right-hand corner, I'm just going to add this set of forms to this template. Add it in. It is spinning up there at the top. Folks ask that all the time. How do you know if it's working? It actually shows you in the tab these days. So added 10 forms to this template. So when I start my client file from this template, these 10 forms will be automatically added. You want to take it one step further? You want to pre-fill some of these forms? How often should your listing agreement really change, aside from an address and a seller name? Click on the form name to launch Forms Editor so that you can go through and pre-fill form fields. I just clicked onto the form name, and that launched this form in the Forms Editor. Sure. Yeah, we'll go back to that. Here's the two that I think are just kind of an easy example. We're not locking these choices in. We're merely suggesting that routinely this is the correct options. If it's different on our client file, we can change it in the client file. But if this saves me time, energy, and effort when I'm actually typing up my listing agreement, I can add it in here. I can pre-fill these features within. And I'm not talking about your name, your broker's name. I'm just talking about these checkboxes and any other fields that would be of value. If it's typically a residential listing and it's typically a residential resale, you could check these boxes. You can go through whatever you value of adding detail in, because we're going to pre-fill from here, and then we're going to auto-populate from our client transaction, so that all of these other fields of address and legal description and our name and our office name and our seller's name and all that information will pre-fill and auto-fill into these forms. So from here, I'm just going to go to File. I can go to all the templated forms if I want to go to other ones and add in additional features to these forms. I can access all of those. That was just under the File, Open. We'll talk about some more of these features, but at this point, I'm just going to exit out of the Form Editor back to the Form tab within our template. I'm a saver. It will provide some safety nets to auto-save if you don't, but it's always a good idea to just save. I thought I did save. I didn't? Let's find out. I'm such a saver, I thought I clicked Save. Survey says saved. It did. So there is always that safety net. A lot of when you move from one feature to the other, it does save. But save as file, save. I guess I get so. But anyway, so we're exiting out. But yes, so when I exited, it auto-saved all the changes that I made. Additional saving points after the first 5 minutes in the Form Editor, and every 5 minutes after it will perform auto-saves. And then obviously when we exited without, it did as well. So I've never tried that, but certainly give it a shot. A lot of keyboard shortcuts do work in the program, so if that's a common one, then it probably is a save function. Uploading documents. I'm going to click here on the Documents tab. One that has become pretty clear to me through some of these sessions is the listing or lockbox authorization. Maybe it's not a form in your forms library, but it is a document that you routinely want to associate to your files. You can upload it as a document. If your custom forms aren't programmed and posted, you can upload them as documents. And I would like to, there's that phrase again, upload a document. Little action arrow. I'm going to add documents. When I click here on the little blue plus sign, it's going to prompt me to browse my computer. What documents do I want to upload into this template? That might be the hardest part, is actually finding where you save that document. I'm just going with the easy ones right here, an addendum, but PDF documents, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, image files, they are all supported document types. As I click on Open, it adds it in. If you want to add multiple, just keep clicking the blue plus sign, finding the document, adding it in. When you're ready to upload, lower third, little up arrow, click there, and it will upload those documents into our template. But again, just keep in mind, we are still in the template. This is just generic stuff. We want to start our new client files from this template. So far, so, yep. Should be doc and docx. Yep, Word docs in that capacity. Then I have, what didn't I name? The, oh, right, because this is generic just to every file I'm going to start from here. Right, yep. Because now, and this maybe that's a nice little segue, because now we're actually going to go and start a file from this template, right? So we were just, the whole time we were just working here, just trying to get really routine, generic stuff. We don't really want to make it too specific to a particular anything. Because we want to be able to use that same template over and over and over again to start every listing file that from that one. So now when we go here to transactions, and again, so the first time we came here, we clicked to our kind of filing cabinet. We clicked and looked at an existing one. This time, I would like to just pop this drop-down menu because I just want to point out, I get this question all the time. I have this test file. How do I remove it from my account? I would like to delete selected transaction. So if you want to remove a file, simply select it by checking in the little box next to it, and then delete selected. I'll show you right now. So I click here on the little action arrow. It's going to take me to the start page. And what, to answer your question now, the save diskette, when you go to save that transaction, it only requires a single click. So I think a lot of routinely you just get in the habit of double clicking things to open. If you double click the save, you're going to get 2 files. If you get a little impatient because you don't really know what's happening, you click it again, now you've got 3 files. And then one more time just to be sure, now you've got 4 files. Creating a new transaction. Anyone want to take a guess at what the only required field is here on this start page? Yes, it is giving your transaction a name. It is actually the only required field in the entire transaction file. That's it. Once you name it, nothing else is required. So let's give it a name. So this is a new listing, and we're going to give it the name. I've used Smith, I've used Jones. How about Timmons? I haven't used that one in a while. And it's Timmons, and his first name is, let's do Nancy. Nancy Timmons. Do you want to add her address? You decide how to name your file so that it's most recognizable, identifiable to you. I use corny, generic, single-family listing. I don't know. I've lost all ability to be exactly. Only requirement. From here down, optional. Optional ways to start getting detail into this transaction. Do you want to give a transaction type? Sure, residential listing. If you want to have a whole bunch of commercial lease files in your account, by all means, go for it. Do you want to import from the MLS? This is another point of MLS integration. You can import from the MLS to populate your new transaction. Maybe you don't have an MLS at this point. Maybe you do. Maybe there's an expired, withdrawn, sold. You can pull those different types of property statuses in. I'm going to skip this for now. We'll manually add some information in. But I do want to use a transaction template. Import from, use template, so I can see the list of templates that I have created. Which template do I want to use to start this new transaction? In this particular example, it's the listing template SFR4. Here's the function here at the bottom. I think that kind of gets some people. I chose residential listing, so I've been designated as the seller's broker. Seller's broker. I can change that to buyers, neither or both. But this is how I'm adding myself to this transaction file, my contact information. This is how I'm getting my broker's office information, contact information into this transaction file. All this information from is populated from your Flex MLS account. So it is contained within your TransactionDesk account. As we add ourselves, I am the seller's broker. And I click on Save Diskette. One time, click and run. Just kind of hands off. It is spinning. Follow me to the upper third. See up at the tab, this is how browsers show you that something's happening. When that little half circle starts spinning. No more, gone are the days of the spinning hourglass in the middle of the page. One of those things that's just kind of gone to the wayside. Talk to Google about that, because I think they were the first ones to ditch that. So our file has been successfully created. We're in the Details tab. There's about 5 or 6 tabs across the top. Details, Contacts, Forms, Documents, Authentisign, and History. In the Pro view, there's probably more like 12 options rather than 5 or 6. History is not really an option. It just shows you all the activity that's taken place in your file. We want to start adding some detail here. Do you have to? Is there any requirement to add any detail here? No, there's not. No requirement at all. If you want to, though, if you want this information to populate into your forms, you want to start adding it here. So I'm just going to start kind of picking and tabbing. That's how I'm getting from one field to the next. Not here, but right back from the Create page. If I put in the MLS ID, then it would populate into here. It would actually, this would be a fillable field from the MLS. When we get to the Pro view, I'm going to show you how you can import, once you have started your file, in the Pro view you can actually import to your existing file. Light view lets you do it at the start. Pro view lets you do it at the start or after it's been set up. So it gives you two points of entry for importing data. One thing to know as well is there is no restrictions from copying and pasting. So I just tabbed back over to Flex because maybe I just want this legal description from Flex into my transaction. Maybe you are looking at a sold or withdrawn or expired, and it's just as easy to copy and paste things over from one tab to the other. Get the details that are of value to you into your form fields by going through the details. I'm going to throw some features here at you. Again, this is just autofill, right? If you have autocomplete set on your browser, you can kind of go through these fields like I'm doing now, using the Tab key on my keyboard to go from one field to the next. Right. Correct. Because that information has been typed in there before. My sense is, in the city, you've probably typed Albuquerque in there at least once, so it'll show up again and again and again. List price, do you know it right now? If you do, type it in. I'm going to pretend like we do. Earnest money, how about a list date? Do you know the list date? If you do, add it in. Little blue icon there. That's what I clicked on to pop up this calendar. Maybe you know it's a couple days off because they have some cleanup to do. Do you know the expiration? Is it required? No. If you add it here, will it populate into your forms? Yes. All right, so we're going to keep scrolling down here. Add some contact information. I already forget his name. It's Timmons. So I forget his first name. Nancy. Her first name. Thank you. Nancy Timmons. Do I want to add some additional information? Little plus sign there next to seller 1 contact. Address, city, state, zip, if they live in the property. If they don't, I'm just going to throw in their email address. My sense is it kind of depends on how Flex is populating your account. Yeah, that's really going to be dependent on how Flex is pushing data to your account. I checked this box down here, I guess middle third, left-hand side. I checked the box to add to my contacts so that 2 things will happen when I save this information. Nancy is going to be added as a seller to this particular transaction, but Nancy will also be saved to my TransactionDesk contacts so that I can access her information at any time. To put her in email messages, to put her in faxes or other outbound correspondence, other transactions. It will. Not automatically, but I'm going to show you that auto-populate. Correct. Yep. And that is definitely the value of adding the information here. Remember, so we've been added in. Office has been added in, I think. Brokerage contact information, scrolling down. If you have additional requirements for sellers 3 and 4, I'd encourage you to run away. But otherwise, click there to add a 3rd seller or 4th seller. Add the contact information. I'm going to prove I am a saver. There's a save diskette here in the lower third of the screen. You can click there to save. As we scroll back up to the top of the page, we'll see that there is a save diskette here in the upper third right. But if we left details without saving, we would get a little pop-up message prompting us to save. Do you want to save your contact before you leave this page? Right. I would add them as however you want them to be in the printed name field under those signature lines. Add them as the appropriate contact to your transaction. And then when we get to Authenticign and we start adding our participants, we'll actually maybe just add their information differently as the participant, their name and appropriate email and things like that. So, right. So the trust name is in the printed name, but then the actual signer's name is added in differently to the signing so that they're signing with their name rather than the trust name. And we'll see that in step 2 when we're creating our signing. So that was details. Property information successfully updated. I'm going to just click here on contacts. We're just going to kind of bounce right by it, but just want to point out that we were added in. So our information is going to populate our forms. Our office has been added in, so that office information will populate the forms. There's our seller as well, so all those folks as we go to that Forms tab. So just wanted to show you that, again, how that really happens. 8 forms automatically associated. We added them to our template, added to our transactions. I would like to. Do you need more? Add more. Do you want to remove some because you don't need that lead-based pane or particular form for this transaction? You can remove it from your transaction. Again, that most important step. It will not remove it from your template. It will only remove it from your client file. Correct. Auto-populate forms. That is the function that we want to choose to make sure that all of our details, dates, and contacts have been added to or flows through to our form fields. It is the function that you always wanted but didn't really know where to find it. Transaction details, that is okay with me to be added in. We'll get an on-screen confirmation that all forms were successfully updated. And that's all I had to do. I just had to select the function from the drop-down menu to auto-populate the forms. Anytime you want to go in and make changes or updates to the details, dates, or contacts, make sure you populate your forms with those changes. It will not. Did anyone hear that question? Will this information auto-populate the documents? It won't because those documents are non-fillable. They're static PDF documents. So we've auto-populated our forms. Now we want to click on the form name. Clicking on that form name, just again, accessing Forms Editor. This is where we're going to type up the online form to complete all of the fields that have not been pre-filled or auto-populated. So scrolling down, features, and again, like I mentioned, features are not locked in. We chose these within our template, but if it's different for this particular client file, I can simply make the change. So I can go through and make sure that I'm completing this form correctly. There's the seller's name, right? So that came through. Broker's information came through. Go through, verify the autofill, make adjustments as required. There's the list date came through, populated from our transaction file. Any real big questions about Forms Editor other than my seller's name won't fit into the field characters provided and things like that? Random is looking at their forms to try to make necessary adjustments to field lengths and character requirements and things like that. So that's a form thing, a forms committee that they're working through right now. For one thought on that, and then we'll come to your question, is under fonts. You can always change the size of the font if that would help allow additional characters. If it's one of those just 2-sentence long seller's name, check with a broker or a legal hotline, but you may be able to put the seller's name as like C addendum and then put it in an appropriate general addendum or something else. Well, yeah, so sometimes it will overlap or it actually won't show up completely. Sometimes the way it looks here isn't necessarily how it looked when it kind of gets exported to PDF or printed to paper. Sometimes it looks a little bit chunky in here, but actually when it gets printed to paper or goes to a PDF, it kind of reformats it a little bit better. Did you have a question in the back? Everyone hear that question all right regarding the date here? If I change the date here, will it backfill into the dates of my transaction? Not currently. It will not backfill. And I say not currently because that is a big enhancement that we're looking at. If we, going through the form, if we type up the form, should it be able to backfill into our transaction? Should it forward fill to other forms and things like that? So those are some considerations for future enhancements that are being bandied about in the development world. So hopefully we'll see that coming up soon. Under the file dropdown, we click here on open form. It will show us all the forms we've added to this particular transaction up till now. So we can go from one to the other without leaving Forms Editor. We can simply go from one to the next as we type up one, open the next. If you're looking at that list and realize that you forgot one, if you click here to add, you'll access your Forms library and be able to add forms to your transaction right here from Forms Editor. If you add it from here, it will be auto-filled with your transaction details. So it is kind of a nice place to add. If you save your changes, it will save the changes to this form. We can export it to PDF. But this file dropdown is specific to this one form. So as you go through these, you are really working on this one individual form. Questions are about watermarks. What is it? How does it work? You can put a watermark. So it kind of behind the scenes there, you can put draft or confidential. It'll kind of across. We tried to do it yesterday. It was a little bit washed out, but I think you could see it. Whoops! I think you could see it a little bit better on the other screen than perhaps this one. Does it look better on that side? It's a little darker over there than on this side. So that's kind of the watermarks. If you want to send it out as a draft or confidential in that capacity, any watermark you add, you can come back and remove. You can print from here. Honestly, just from a user standpoint, I would encourage you to save it as a PDF first and then print it from the PDF rather than printing here from the browser. Right now, there's only two. We're always interested in more if there's other watermarks that would be of value, but right now, just the two are available. Confidential is one watermark, and draft is the other watermark. So the question is kind of printing to PDF multiple forms are right. Let's show that right now. So I'm going to exit out. So this, if I chose it from here, save as PDF, it would just save this one particular form. I'm going to exit from Form Editor back to the Forms tab of our transaction file. So for that standpoint, because now you can start deciding, how do you want to deliver these? How many people would now deliver these by digital signature? Just today, yesterday, or the day before, how many would you really do? To have a few. How many would email them out to their client as an email attachment? How many would fax? How many would print? Would take these and print them all the paper to go meet with their client? Some of you weren't really sure, so. It depends on the client. It's an excellent answer as well. You can do any of these things from TransactionDesk. You can email them. You can set them up and email them out individually. You could fax them. There are 4 distinct faxing services, and then we get into document management a little bit more. We can talk about a few of the other ones, but this is outbound faxing. In New Mexico, I can literally say this, you can be 1,000 miles from a fax machine and still send an outbound fax. It's internet faxing. You select the forms you want to fax, you choose the fax, and TransactionDesk sends the fax for you. It emails you notifications when the fax is successfully delivered. So you can fax it out. To the question, I want to print some of these or export them to PDF. So if I choose a couple from the list here, I would like to print selected forms to PDF, and it's going to give me the option to put them into an appropriate order. So how do you want them to be presented? Would it be the broker duty first set of forms and then the listing agreement, something like that, so you can order them? Because as you save, bottom third right-hand corner there, as you save that, it's going to merge these 3 forms into one PDF document that you can then print, save, take appropriate steps with. It will not. So, well, we can send them separately. If you'd rather email them separately, we could just select the 3, and I would like to email them. That will send them separately. Or if we print them to PDF, that'll merge them all together. Correct. 3 separate ones, correct. Yep. Yep. There was another question, too, about ordering. If you wanted to, this would be an interesting place if you wanted to put your forms in a particular order. Just use these green arrows to move them up or down. In the template, you could do the same thing, just so they're, as they show up on the page in that particular way. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it acts a little weird when you do that. It'll say that you have 2 number 1s on the page. So I guess make sure that you could do that. And sometimes it acts a little wonky. So I usually use the arrows, but you can switch them up. So now estimated is 8 and burped as 1. Before we go to Authentisign, let's just talk about documents because, half of you are going to email, fax, or print these just by the showing of hands, right? It's about that much. Some of you are going to use digital signatures and probably by the end of the session will, but let's talk about documents. Because if you are getting them signed any other way, they're coming back to you as PDF documents. People are handing them to you. Here they are. People are emailing them to you as PDF attachments. Perhaps some of them are going to fax them back to you. That is a second portion of our document management we're faxing is this cover sheet. Fax back cover sheet, inbound faxing. You can use it, you can deliver it outbound with your email messages so that your recipients can print out and use these cover sheets to fax directly back to your transaction file. And what happens in training stays in training. We won't make too much money if you're a faxer. A lot of people still faxing. No, we process millions of fax pages a month, so I know that it still happens quite a bit. But this is the cover sheet. It's a generic toll-free number. It's the barcode that's unique. Our receiving fax reads the barcode, converts that paper fax to PDF, and delivers the PDF to your transaction file. Once it hits your transaction, you get an email notification with the PDF attachment of the received fax. So it really does show up in 2 places, your transaction file as well as the email that's on file for you within your TransactionDesk account. So faxing. Scanning and uploading. You can certainly scan or use the save as. If you get an email attachment, you can go through those steps. Although I think that one is save as steps are going away because we have this cool new feature called upload documents via email. And whether or not you actually have any documents that you want to upload at this point, by choosing this option and clicking on the action arrow, it's going to allow me to save this transaction as an email contact. So I will always have this transaction file as a contact in my email account. So anytime I receive an email message with any type of correspondence regarding this transaction, whether it's just an email or if it is an email with attachment, I can send that correspondence into my transaction file. So I'm just going to click here, click to save transaction email, contact. It does a little download of a .vcf file that I'm going to open. I'm using Windows Live. Here is the email address, so if it's just as easy to save this, just copy it, create a contact in your email provider, just make sure you're using that email address. That email address is unique to this transaction file. So however you choose to save this, wherever you choose to, however you choose to, save that email address so you can email into your transaction file. And I'm just going to do Nancy. I'm going to do it like this, actually. Nancy Timmons, transaction file. And I'm going to save Nancy as a contact within my Windows Live account. So maybe you're asking, well, why did you just do that? How is that of value? Well, maybe you've gotten a few email from Nancy already, and you want to send a couple of those email messages in. Select the email message that you received, forward that email message, and then however you're getting that into the to address, you can certainly paste it in there. Or in this case, I'm just going to type Nancy's name in there. She is a contact, so I can select her from my contacts and send. In this case, this email that I'm sending in is just going to be the email message. It's going to show all the correspondence within that email message. If there was an attachment, I would get two documents coming in. One, the email message, and the second, the document that was attached. If there was 3 or 4 documents attached, I'd have 3 or 4 documents come back into my transaction file. And it happens pretty fast. Let me try a quick refresh to see if it's come in yet. There it is, right? So now it's in here. Now this email is part of my transaction. And that's all it was an email message. And it says all this cool stuff that I'm going to use in court when she tries to sue me for not selling her property for full price. I'm just kidding. Document management, turning digital forms outbound, printing, bringing those paper back into your transaction. So certainly have all those options. Want to kind of see the steps to not have to print anymore? It's digital signatures. It's AuthentiSign. It's all the digital signature providers that are out there. You have these opportunities. AuthentiSign, part of your member benefit, unlimited usage. So I would encourage you to practice. Clicking on the AuthentiSign tab will start a brand new signing linked to my transaction file. I'm actually in AuthentiSign service now, and we're going to go through the steps to create this signing. There are really 4 functional steps. There are 5 total, but 4 functional. First step is giving our signing a name and kind of choosing an invitation or participant order. Step 2 is actually where we'll add our participants. Who's participating? Who's signing? Who's reviewing? Who's getting copies? Step 3, we'll import our forms and upload some documents into the signing. Step 4, we'll actually review the placement where the signatures and initials are being plotted onto the pages, drag and drop some blocks on there. And then lastly, we'll review what we did and we'll send out for the signatures. So here in step 1, pardon my mouse for a moment, get rid of that little feature there. Nancy Timmons, this was the name of my transaction file. It's populated into the name of my signing, which is okay, but I would encourage you to change it. I would encourage you to name this signing something unique to actually what's being signed. What's being signed? The listing agreement, the lockbox authorization. What are you actually having signed here? So that when, I'll put the listing agreement and, I don't know, estimated cost. AuthentiSign is going to use this name as the subject line of the email message that's being sent out as the invitation and that's being received back by you as a notification. So the more identifiable that subject line of your email is, the easier you are identifying those messages as they come back to your email. Subject line of the email is the name of your transaction. All right. Participant order is really the other one that kind of needs a little bit of explanation. Sign in line. By default, and good, bad, or indifferent, it's the only option for default. If you don't want to use it, you have to change it. Inline suggests that we are going to first, in our step 2 participants, we are going to put our participants in a specific order. We're going to have a first signing participant, a second, a third, and however many participants that we have. We're going to put them in an order, and AuthentiSign is going to email them one at a time through that particular order. Second participant doesn't receive an invitation until the first participant completes. Third participant doesn't receive an invitation until the first and second complete, and so forth. Inline signing. SimulSign is the exact opposite. SimulSign is going to deliver the invitations to everyone simultaneously. It's not that everyone is going to sign simultaneously, it's just that they're going to receive the invitation simultaneously. In either order that you choose, all signatures and initials are captured on one final signed document. All signatures and initials on one signed document. Right. Step 1, I think expiration date and reminder is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm just going to click here on the blue arrow to go to step 2. Step 2, everything I added in step 1 is saved as I go to step 2 to add my signing participants. first prompted with my transaction contacts. That's where these two people came from, my transaction file contacts. And I'm going to add us both as signing participants to this AuthentiSign. I'm going to add them in. Because in your listing agreement, you have signature requirements. In the instances that you have signature requirements, add yourself as a signing participant. In the instances where you do not have signature requirements, do not add yourself in as a signing participant. We can put our ordered. That's why there's an order here, is because we chose inline. AuthentiSign is going to deliver these invitations in order. I'm going to switch the order here because I want the invitation to go to AuthentiSign email first. I'm going to click on the participant's name because I just want to clean up this email address a little bit so I can actually receive it and not send it to my colleague. And I'm going to save that participant. Now we're going to talk about this big blue button right here. Let's talk about that as I click here on Add Participant, because I can add them manually. That's a good question, and really it comes situational, right? If you have a very specific order where you want this person to review and sign, or review first, and then release to this person to sign, and it really has to go through this particular order, that's that's inline. When you just like, it has to go to you first, and then to the next and the next, that's inline. If it really is to your point where I just need to get it out, get it signed, and get it back, that really can be simul-sign. And it really depends who your participants are, what your strategy is on signing. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about here. Correct. So the first person who signs will not see anybody else's because they're the first person. There's no other signatures. The second person who signs will see the signatures applied by the first. The third will see the signatures applied by first and second. So they will see those as they go through that. Whether it's simul-sign or inline, the people who sign after will see the signatures from the people who signed before. One thing, especially because about half the room it seemed like only raise of hands, only one or two people have been using it a lot and feel really comfortable with using the process routinely, conveniently, and advanced. Just out of curiosity, today, if you were to email something or print something, what were the likelihood that you would be trying to track down the other broker's clients for signatures? What's the likelihood of that happening? I'm representing the buyer. Am I going to try to get the seller's signatures? I would say to stay with that same thought process when doing digital signatures. Just because you can, some used to say this all the time, just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? Can you manipulate this so that it goes to every possible participant that you might need to sign? Sure. Does that increasingly add difficulty to the signing process? A little bit. So as you're getting started, as you're learning how to use it, stick to what you know. Get your clients, get your own signature, get your client's signatures, take those signed contracts, which are PDFs, and deliver them to your cooperating broker. Same process that you're accustomed to today. You send it out, your clients sign it, and send it back to you. You deliver it to the cooperating broker. Think of it as the same process with digital signatures. When you get more comfortable with it, when everybody in this room feels like they've done it a half a dozen or a dozen times, and everyone understands what's coming to them, how it's getting to them, where it's going, then layer in these other opportunities for continuation and things like that. But when you're really just trying to get started, keep it simple, keep it short, and stay within that same philosophy that you're used to today. With all that said, the different types of participants, signers, reviewers, CC-onlys, signers have signature requirements. Remote signers are going to get invitations sent to them remotely to their own email address. An in-person signer maybe doesn't have an email address. Someone was saying they had an investor who doesn't even own a computer. So this person could be an in-person signer where you're going to receive and host the signing on their behalf. You become the recipient. You have responsibility to create a host PIN, but you receive the invitation. You hand the device off to that participant. They go through the signing process. they hand it back to you so you can authenticate that you were there with your host PIN. Let's put a pin in that just for a second, because here's the honest situation. You're going to send remote signers 99 out of 100 times. You might have an in-person signer once or twice. Maybe it happen every once in a blue moon that you'll have an in-person signer. Anyone know what a blue moon is? Right. See, that's a little bit different, because they can both be remote signers. We'll just add the same email address for each. Is it? Ours doesn't, so let's talk about that just for a moment. Remote signer, requirement for a name, an email address, a role. The PIN, because someone asked about the PIN in this session earlier, PIN. PIN is an optional. It is an optional feature. You do not have to add the PIN. It is purely an optional, additional level of security. So when you send out that email, if you don't feel like their email is secure enough, you can add the additional PIN number to add that layer of security. If you choose the optional PIN, you create the PIN, you deliver it to that signing participant in a secondary communication. In my opinion, if you have two people sharing the same email address, we'll set them up as separate signers, adding their names with the same email address. In that instance, you may very well want to add the PIN so that you set up the husband, you call up, hey, Larry, I'm sending you this invitation. This is your PIN number to access the documents. Put Nancy on the phone. Nancy, sending you the invitation to the same email address. Here's your PIN number to log in and sign your documents. Right. That would be my suggestion. See, that's where in-person could be. So the question I would have is, are they sitting there with their own devices? Are they sitting with their cell phones, iPads, laptops? The only reason I ask is, this is just a personal opinion, that remote is going to be a little bit more secure, because you're sending it to their email account where they log in using their username, their password, they're authenticating into their own email account. Okay. So that's where in-person can. So then you become the host, you send it to yourself, you host it, you create a host PIN for yourself, you get invited, you hand your device to them. They go through the process to create or log into their signature. They go through the process to sign. When they're done, they hand the device back to you. You plug in your host PIN number that you've created to authenticate that you were standing there with them when it happened. So those are signer types. And this is what I mean, this is where you get just the what-if scenarios can kind of get, right? They can kind of start ballooning on you. Reviewer types, very similar to signers in that they are invited in to the process. They have responsibility to review and accept or reject the contracts as written. They just have no signature requirements. But they do review, accept or reject, and participate in the signing in that way. Just no signatures. A CC only, they're only going to receive a copy. Once all of your signers and reviewers have completed and you have a finalized signed document, everybody who participates gets a copy. Signers get copies, reviewers get copies. That's all CC only is going to get, is a copy once everyone has signed. Anybody that you might want to just have automatically receive a copy. So I'm going to close out of this here. Again, participants, first prompted from our transaction file, add additional in all the different ways, and I think you'll find a couple core ways that you kind of use most of the time. So, no restrictions to the number of participants that can be added. Participants can use the same email address. Blue next arrow to go to the third step. Everything we added in step 2 is saved as we go to step 3. First prompted with all the forms and documents that have been added to our transaction file. So even our documents are available to us here to add into our signing. I'm just going to choose one or two here, maybe the listing and broker duties. And again, I'm just trying to keep this a little bit light and moving forward. and I'm going to add these two forms to my signing. You might add them all or some other set of them to your signing. Our forms that we've typed up, see there's a little line under there that says default template applied. It means AuthentiSign has looked at the form, added some routine signature and initial blocks, pre-plotted them for us that we're going to be able to review and see here in just a moment. The other feature that I think you'll use here a lot is the upload a file option. Because clicking here on upload a file, upper third there, left hand, blue icon, will prompt me to browse my computer. What document do I want to upload into this signing? Maybe it is that lockbox authorization. Maybe it is some other document that you received. I'm just going to pull one in here, select one from the list, add it to my signing. The documents that we upload do not receive the templates like the forms that we import. See that little DocBox document I uploaded? No template under that one. So, but the forms that we upload do. We can order them. And I think this is probably important to you guys in terms of being able to order the presentation of the forms, because perhaps if there was a requirement for a lead-based, you'd want that to always be the first document that they are presented with. So use the green arrows or the numbering to always have the appropriate document in the first position. They will always be presented with that particular document or signing first. Otherwise, I'm going to click on the blue next arrow, go to step 4, where we're going to plot or align the appropriate signatures and initial blocks and show some of the features. Drawing tools, because there was a question about how to kind of get some content in for, what did you call the document, the WAR or the objections, waivers, and resolutions. We can use some drawing tools to type in some text. We can even plot some text box if you want your client to type it in there instead. So we'll show that here as we go through. We have 14 pages of our combined documents here. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, where we're going to start seeing some plotted blocks. Lower right corner, this is part of the templating, has plotted some of these. I'm going to move it up to where it's a little bit more visible to everybody. So for two reasons. One, so you can see that you can plot these blocks anywhere you want to on the page. You're not restricted in any way to plot it anywhere you want. But I also want to point out probably the most important feature of step 4. And it's the access is a couple different ways depending on the device that you're using. See how my mouse changes? It's a hand. When I hover on it, it kind of turns into what I refer to as kind of a crosshair. I'm going to click on it with the right mouse button. I have a PC 2-button mouse. To yield this menu, I'm going to use the right mouse click. Mac, someone was telling me that you have the right mouse click now. If not, Command, double click will do the same thing. If you're on a tablet or other kind of mobile device, if you tap and hold on the block for about a 2 count, so if you're on an iPad or a Galaxy, tap 1001, 1002, this little block will pop, or this little formatting will pop up. So we can delete the block if it's misplotted. We can add formatting of date, time, or name to that particular block. We can link these features to the block. And it might not be as appropriate to this one, as I'm going to put it back down there on the line. But as we go over to page 2 here, page 2, Nancy. The page here is asking for both date and time. So if I want to plot that time, I can right-click on the block to add the timestamp. So that when Nancy clicks to accept the signature block, AuthentiSign will stamp the date and time onto the page. The block that she clicks to accept will always contain the date, the time, and the IP. So these stamps are really for visual. If you want to print this out, it's printed onto the page. It's that warm and fuzzy feeling you see that you get when you see the time and date on the page. So we have a signature requirement here for ourselves. I'm going to switch to signing party. And this is how you drag and drop a block. So Steve is our signing party. I click and hold to drag and drop the block onto the page. I can right-click to date and right-click to time. So that when I click, it stamps that immediate date and time onto the page. Initial is also there at the bottom third right, so that's there. We can keep going through the thumbnails, showing that they're there and available, showing that they're there and pre-filled or preset. Right? So let's go down a little bit further. Let's take this show on the road a little bit further down the page here. because maybe we have a couple features. Let's talk about the drawing tools. Maybe when you do that, oh, go ahead. It does. It just has time AM, PM, and that time is really based on when you log in. It knows that you're in the Mountain Time or Central Time or Pacific Time. It knows which zone you're in, based on the client and based on some of those features. A lot of the time, though, too, actually is server time. It's Green Mountain Time. So if it actually comes down where you're going to court over when it was signed, daylight, standard, yada, they'll pull server, with Greenwich Mountain Time and say this is exactly by the world clock when they signed it. So again, some of these features are just to make us feel a little better about it. Right. Right click or mouse, yeah. Right. Everyone hearing that all right? So it is that right click. This date where it says today's date is actually today's date. If we drag that onto the page, it really will just reflect today's date onto the page. So let's talk about these drawing tools a little bit, especially in reference. Is there something that you would particularly type into that objections and waivers, or is it here where we can go to it? Okay. This one here is actually for your participant. So if you drag, I guess it could be you. If it were you, you could drag it on for yourself, or you can drag it on for whomever is the signing participant. We can drag that onto them. For them. The other option is the drawing tool, the text, T for text, upper third of the screen, right-hand side, that T for text. If we select it and bring it onto the page, because now we can start plotting where we want to. And you kind of make it bigger. You might have to plot multiple text boxes. So if it's here, then you plot a second one here, a third one here. But double-click in, and then you can start typing, objections. It will. This as I type, I don't really like to do this, but it will continue to wrap. So, and that is just this text box. So, and then when I click away from it, it is going to, and sometimes it takes a moment, but it will put that on. And you can plot that anywhere you need to, and I made it a little bit big so I can scrunch it down a little bit and then plot it wherever it needs to go, things like that. So you can do that. But the question is, so if you want to type it, use the text, T for text tool to do that. If you want your signing participant to type it, select them, text box, drag that onto the page, and in this instance, we're going to plot a text box for our signing participant to type in. And if that was it, you could, so it is, I think 25 is the max here on a single line, but if you went multi-line, it will go all the way up to 100 so that it will carriage return. So if you need to allow them additional characters. Again, so this is going to prompt, I'll go back to single line. The one I've been just kind of using is contact, phone number, just something generic. The tech tool is please type your primary contact phone number. It can be required or not required, so we'll go with required for this one. So whatever it is that you want them to add to your form or contract, you can plot a text box for them. They will be prompted. So if you had clicked, and as you you just click to select it, you don't drag it. So these particular drawing tools, you just click once, and then just let go and just kind of slide it onto the page, and it'll turn to that little plus sign. This is what's going to happen. One other feature, we'll see how they're prompted. That little stuff that we typed in will actually, if they hover their mouse over it, it'll show them the name and the text tool to show them what's required of them. The other feature that I want to show, some people have clued in on it, some people have not. It's this one right here. Add initials to multiple pages. Anyone come across that option yet? Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good one specifically when you are the listing agent, and that I'm going to click here, add initials to multiple pages, because it gives you a little input sheet, especially when you get a purchase offer as the listing agent. How many pages is that usually? Like about 20 pages we were kind of talking about before. If you have 2 sellers and initial requirements on 20 pages, that's 40 initials that you could end up dragging and dropping on each page, switching back and forth, right? And you're thinking to yourself, I could drive across town faster than I could plot all these required blocks. That's where the initials to multiple pages, because what we can decide is where do I want them plotted, at the top or bottom, left, center, or right, for which signers, for all of your sellers or participants, for which pages of which document. So if this is a 20-page document and I wanted it on pages 1 through 18 or something like that, you can choose page ranges. That was not the button I meant to hit. I meant to hit the dash. Pages 1 and 2, page ranges, all pages, something like that. So when I choose the size of the block here, I usually go with the middle size. When I click on Add Initials, AuthentiSign is going to automatically add those initials across all pages. And we'll just put it in the bottom right. We might need to micro adjust it to move it on to the appropriate. Let me scroll down, just kind of show you there the last 2 pages of that particular document. You can see it's there. You can move it anywhere you want it to be, right? So there's no restrictions from wherever you plot these blocks. It will just put it in the bottom right. You move it to wherever or leave it, whichever is appropriate. But it could significantly reduce the time of plotting. Instead of plotting 40, you just move them around just a little bit. Here in this classic view, no, but in our other, which is kind of the emerging view, our mobile view, you just kind of scroll pages. And once we save and send, I'll show you that other view. Any questions here about plotting, signatures, initials, dragging and dropping, reviewing, right-clicking, adding initials to multiple, drawing tools, text boxes? The list goes on and on. Did we answer all the questions that were on the board for initials and features like that? Okay. I'm going to click on the blue next arrow. I'm going to leave step 4. We're going to go to step 5. This is the final step. It's really just a review step. We can go back to any step, 1 through 4, to add, update, or revise prior to sending out the invitations. We can go through those steps. The biggest feature, I think, is verifying that you spelled the email correctly. You can edit here on the fly. If you realize that you spelled it wrong or need to change it, you can edit that email address here. You can also customize the body of the message that's going out to your signing participants. So you can type up a little note, a little instruction. If you want that note or instruction to go to everybody, just click the box that says send this message to all recipients. One thing about this box I would suggest, don't type in very critical or sensitive or substantive text in here. AuthentiSign will capture that you sent the invitation, when it was sent, and all the information like that, but it will not retain or keep this message. So don't put in like something critical that you would need for substantive conversation in here. This is just for like please review or things like that. If you have a very critical item to convey to them, send it from a different email account. Just a thought about that message. Otherwise, finalize details and send to signers. Upper third right, thumbs up, ready to send. Like any good program, it's not going to take your first click as your final answer. If you're ready to send, finalize and send invitations, and AuthentiSign is going to deliver them out to your participants. Brings us back to kind of the main page of our AuthentiSign account. I want to click over here to AuthentiSign to Go. This mobile view, mobile version, talked about it a little bit, referenced it a little bit. This is primarily the version that you're going to go to if you're on a tablet. This one you may be more familiar with. This may be the one you've gotten pushed to if you're on a Mac or Google Chrome or things like that. So this is the emerging view. This is the one you can scroll pages, and you're on step 4. It will allow you to scroll pages. Primarily the same, a little bit different look and feels. I click on one. All the same steps, just looks a little bit differently in how you're going through and preparing it. All the steps are exactly the same. Gives you a couple different ways to add documents and other features like that. So just want to give, I don't want you to get here and be like, what is this? Good question. So signing, it's right here under the settings gear. If you click here, you can always switch back to that classic view that we were looking at. So you can go between the two. If you are logging in through an iPad or other device like that, you will be pushed to this view. And it is a nice view. It does offer some nice features as well. So it's predominantly the same, just a little bit different look to it. But from here, we've delivered that invitation. Let's go in and see how to sign. So I just tabbed over to this demonstration account so I can log in. One thing about the inbound email, sometimes it will get filtered. Maybe you've come across that. Your client's telling you up and down that they did not get the message. Please have them check bulk, spam, junk. If they use Gmail like I do, it can go to promotions. If they do the tabs, it can get pushed to promotions. We see this one came in, but you'll see if I go to promotions, I get a whole bunch into my promotions as well. I have no idea how it decides if it should go to promotions or primary. It just, I kind of get to the point where it is what it is. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's spam, sometimes it's not. So it is a little bit. Usually if it goes to spam, there's options to say not spam, and will then typically go to that user's inbox. So if the first one goes to spam, have them mark it as not spam, and it will from there forward go to their inbox. But every email provider treats it a little bit differently, so just have them check those other inboxes first. Otherwise, we're just going to click on the subject line. You can see that is the name of our signing came through in the subject line. Timmons, Nancy, listing agreement, and I forget what the EC was, but clicking on the subject to open the message. Can't remember what EC says for. Estimated cost, nice. Click here to, thank you. Click here on the words or otherwise the big blue image to receive the invitation. With any luck, I've never used Nancy before. This is what it looks like to a first-time signer. This is what it'll look like for you for the first time you go through the process if you never have. You are a signer participant just like everybody else. You go through the same steps. So it could be a benefit to you to practice, set yourself as a signer so that you see what they will see. First thing that you want to do is create your signature profile. You can either select from some prefabs, have 5 or 5 in there that decent ones. If you like those, you can choose that to represent your electronic signature. Or you can use the Instanet ink. Instanet ink feature will allow you or your participant to put digital pen to digital box and create your signature. And this can actually come in very handy if they have those I need power of attorney for, signing on behalf of, right? You can add anything that you would like to in here to customize that signature through this look. POA, whatever they need here. And I would say if you have a shot at access to a tablet or some other finger touchscreen, it makes that so easy just to create your signature. And you only have to get it right once. Now, I've done that a few times, so it is becoming more and more natural, but give it a couple of shots. Use the green refresh. If you've kind of wonked it the first time, refresh it. It'll clean the slate so that you can try it again. When you like it, just click Next, because you only have to get it right one time, because Authentisign is going to remember this as your signing signature and initial. Adopt the signature. Those of you who have been in this class a few times don't think it's as cute anymore. I kind of do it all the time. It's fun, though, and you can. I mean, this is your chance to make it whatever you want. Password. Everyone is required to create a Authentisign signature password. This is unique to the signing participant. You will create one for yourself, too. I am sometimes shocked at how passionate people can be about having to create a password. It's eye-opening sometimes. And it's really not as much for this one as it is for every subsequent signing, because it is creating this profile. It is retaining that signature. So you create the password, agree to approve the electronic representation, agree to participate, When your participant clicks on confirm and accept, you get an email message that says they have authenticated. All they are confirming and accepting at this point is their signature, the terms of service, end user license. That's all they're accepting. You might get a call from a client being like, I'm not going to confirm and accept this. I haven't even seen the documents yet. They're not doing any of that. All they're confirming is their signature and agreeing to the terms of service. Now they're presented with the documents. It does not, but we'll see in our next signing participant that there's the forgot password link right under the password request field. So they can now start going through any of these thumbnail pages to read what they're about to sign. This is where they have their opportunity. If they get to a page that they don't like, they can reject the signing. They can decline to sign. They can come back later. If they don't want to go through the thumbnails, if they prefer to have that tactile paper in their hand as they read through, they can print out a copy. It is a paper copy. That's all it is. There's no signatures or initials. It's just a paper copy of the listing agreement you sent them. When they're ready to start signing, they simply click on the Start Signing button, and AuthentiSign is going to locate and highlight the block. They click to accept. AuthentiSign takes them to the next block. They click to accept. Can they go up and down to read what they're signing? Sure they can. Looks good, looks good, looks good. Accept. See, it plots the date, the time, the signature, takes them to the next. Counting it down at the top. 12 items remaining, or now 11 items remain to be clicked. They click to accept. They click to accept. What we're about to find out is once they go through and click all the blocks, they still will have an opportunity to review what they're signing. So if they would prefer just to quickly click and accept, they can certainly go through that. See, reject is still an option here. Reject is still an option. Here's the block. This is what we prompted them. So above it is what we typed in, kind of what it looks like when you use the text tool, drawing tool. This is what it looks like to them. When they hover their mouse on it, it says, contact phone number, please type your primary. Okay, so they click on it, and it's going to prompt them to type that in. Anybody know the 512? Austin. Good call. All right, one item or two items remaining, one item remaining. Now they have 0 items remaining to be clicked. They can go back to any page, read what they just signed. Reject is still an option if they read something they don't agree to. Once they click on Done and Accept All, again, prompted to stay in review. When they click Complete Signing, now their portion is done. They've completed. In the inline approach, AuthentiSign is delivering the invitation to the next participant. So let's do that. Let's get over to that other participant. You, as the creator, have now received a follow-up email message saying that this participant has authenticated. We're going to click here. We have received the invitation. We are going to sign on our own behalf now. You will create a signature profile for yourself. You will be required to log into that profile. Here's the password that we've created for ourselves. Here is the password when we forget what that password is. So it is right there. It's kind of the invisible link because it's right there, but I think people get in a panic and they don't necessarily see it. We're still agreeing to participate. We're agreeing to the terms of service. We're confirming and accepting, authenticating, accepting the terms of service, consumer consent, and now we'll be presented with the document to sign our signature and initial requirements. And it is spinning. That's where we kind of look at that tab. Look to the tab at the top center to know that it is spinning and working and loading. Hopefully you typed it up. You know what it says. You just want to add your signature to it, start signing. And to the question, so there's the signature, time and date. You know that they've signed. You see their signature on the page as we click to accept the one block required of us. Done and accept all. Complete signing. Now we have a completed signing. All of our participants have completed. Everyone who participates gets a copy. Copies to our AuthentiSign signing, but also to our transaction file. And I think, so I'm going to click here, upper third, to go back to TransactionDesk so that we can go back to our transactions, right, to our transaction filing cabinet, if you will, to access Nancy's transaction file. Because maybe you might need to now forward this document to somebody else. If I come back to the Documents tab, I can now email these documents out. Here they all are, right back into my transaction file. The document that I added to my template, the email that I forwarded in, the 3 documents that I just had signed. Do I need to forward this to somebody? Your qualifying broker is not one person you need to, well, I guess you could, but they have access to these. So I would like to email selected documents. I could email them, I could fax them, I can download them if I want to, right? So if you have to put them in other places or you're receiving them from other places to move them around, I'm going to email them. I always like to encourage or suggest to email these outbound as a link. Attachment is a PDF attachment. Depending on the size of these files, the number of pages, the number of blocks, they can get to be very large attachments, 5, 6, 10 megs. If you send it as a link, it significantly reduces the size of the email you're about to send. But I think even the more valuable thing, when you send it over to that, I don't know, title company at their email address, you can include a fax back cover sheet if you have any expectations that they're going to fax you something back. When you send it, when they receive it, and they click on that link to open the document that you sent to them, you're notified. You get an email message notifying you that they have opened your document, time and date stamp when that action took place. So a little feedback loop that they have received and opened that particular document. It opens as a PDF on their computer that they can save, print, or take appropriate steps with. It does open as a PDF, yeah. That's exactly right. If you send a PDF, yeah. Yeah. If I linked it to a Word document, it would, yeah. So that's sending that out once you received it in. Yeah. Well, I guess it would, I don't want to say it this way. It would depend on how you sent it. This is a PDF document. All my returned signed documents are in PDF format. So when they click to open it, it will open it a PDF. The document section does support Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, image files. So if I send them a link to that document type, it would open up as a Word doc, spreadsheet, image on their side. So whatever format I send it to them in is the format it will open up on their side. Yeah, correct. We go one question in the back and then to the front, Here from our signing? Correct. No, the link will see if if we select 3 documents, it'll send 3 links. Right. Correct. Well, either way, if we select 3 individual, it will send 3 PDF attachments or 3 links within, so it won't merge them, but yeah, individual. View and then to the front. That sounds reasonable. Right. Sure. Yeah. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about those these are little like key codes for, this is, one quick question was about the I, the M, the R. This is from any brokers. Did I ask that already? Qualifying, sponsoring brokers in the room? This functionality, so brokers, qualifying brokers have additional functionality within our program. One of them is being able to create document checklists so that you can make it mandatory that your associate brokers are uploading these documents back into the transactions. You make them mandatory, they upload the document, they mark it ready for review, which kicks off a review process for the qualifying broker or office, and then you can mark these documents reviewed or incomplete and send them back. So that's kind of what, so if you would kind of know when your qualifying broker set it up, because then you'll have all these requirements to upload documents back in. Question was good. So yeah, let's click on this listing agreement. I'm going to click on that link to open this document. And one thing, if your browser immediately prompts you to save this and doesn't want to open it This is a PDF in browser. And good, bad, or indifferent, you have to set up your browser to display PDF in browser. And this is kind of stuff I don't want to get too geeky about because probably everyone in here kind of has it that way. Some of you are like, every time I click on that link, it prompts me to save a copy. Why does it do that? And it's the way their browser is displaying PDF in browser. But here it is. Our initials are there. We can, and so here's what we're kind of talking about before. Personally, I would not encourage you to print right from here. This is you printing from your internet browser. I would encourage you to save a copy to PDF, then print from that local PDF version to send that to your printer. Just so that that PDF that we save as communicates more effectively with your printer than does the browser. It's just the way data is sent. Data from your browser is not as clean and flat as PDFs from your computer. So if you ever come across those, and I think somebody even mentioned it earlier, that you printed it and the yellow box was there, but no initials were in it. And if you printed right from here, just the way that the browser communicates with your printer, it's not flattening it and is not cleaning it up to be printed correctly as it would be if you saved it first and then printed it from there. This one, I have a few different. Let's see. Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. Sounds like a Mac feature. That sounds like a Mac always has those fun features that PCs don't. From that same idea, though, I've created this. Maybe anyone familiar with PDF writers? Does that mean anything to anybody? Mine's a cute PDF. Anything that I want to print, I can actually print into a PDF document. So I can do that. And especially if you have Word documents or images or Excel spreadsheets, you can print. The other actually really cool thing about a PDF writer is if you have a big merged 40-page PDF, and all you want to do is peel out 6 or 7 pages, like pages 22 through 27, you can actually, so this is pages, all pages. I could actually just print out pages 1 through 5. And I could print it into a smaller PDF because maybe I want to peel out those pages and send just that little chunk to somebody else. So they're all free, and you can decide which one's best, but they're really cool little features to get those documents into PDF format. But really is just from the difference between printing from your browser as opposed to printing from a saved PDF file. It's just going to be cleaner, flatter, and save you some heartache as you print these to paper. Hopefully, save yourself the heartache and don't print it to paper. Email it to other folks and maintain online transaction files and avoid the whole need to print to paper. ProView users. Anyone have time, energy, interest, or enthusiasm to talk about Pro at all? Yeah? Some yes, some no, some heading for the door. So I'm going to click here on the Pro. We're going to look at this same transaction file in the Pro view. And if you are a Pro user and have very specific Pro questions, please, thank you for waiting this long to have the opportunity. But I want you to have an open forum to talk about that as well. We're going to click here on Work with Existing Transaction. And we're going to start looking at the differences in more functions within Pro. The first thing I want to point out, so this is kind of that filing cabinet. Every file that we created in Light is visible to us in Pro. Here's the difference, because it's always the question, well, what is the difference? It's the number of options. In the same filing cabinet view in Light, what did we have? 3 choices: create, delete, and archive. So here we have those same: create, archive, delete. We also have mark selected as expired, withdrawn, delete, remove. Some of these are qualifying brokers. We have options to change our status of our transaction file. So you start seeing the expanded options within Pro. You can see it in the very first I would like to menu. So let's look at the actual file. Same Nancy Timmons transaction that we created in Light visible to us in Pro. All the features are here that we added in Lite are visible to us in Pro. In Pro, more functions of this dashboard on the left-hand side of the screen. One big feature about Pro that I always like to point out, we're in the transaction overview screen. I would like to import data. Because in the Pro view, not only can you import from the MLS or templates and so forth to start, but you can also add this import from within your existing file. So if you did start your file without an MLS ID, but then wanted to populate it further downstream from MLS, you could. It allows you to import into your existing files. Or maybe today you're like, wow, I want to use templates. I'd like to add those to every one of my files. You could import a template into one of your existing transactions. You could pull that template into a file you set up last week, last month, last year. So it gives you this opportunity to import information into your existing or in-progress file. Canceling out. So this is all the overview. And you can just start seeing all these dashboard features. Some of them are similar to Lite. Dates are similar. History. General information is a good one if you want to change the name of your transaction file, the status of your transaction file, or if you have a whole bunch of those commercial lease files, you can come in here and update it to listing or sale, or if you would like to do that. Contacts and parts. Service orders. Part of the Pro view is you can actually submit third-party service orders to home inspectors, surveyors. You can submit those right here through your transaction, because these are the features, more features of your file that you want to manage. Authentisign is directly linked to your Pro view as well. One feature that is not available in Lite that is available in Pro is task management. I'm going to click here on tasks. How many of you manage by that type of checklist? You get a new listing and I want to do these 12 things for my client. Anybody already have these paper checklists that you go through and say, yes, I opened title, I put it by MLS. That's what we call tasks, and you can manage those tasks within your transaction file. You can add these type of tasks to your transaction templates. So not only is a set of forms added and a document checklist, but also some tasks that need to be completed. So it just ratchets up that online transaction management functions within the file. Anyone using it who has really specific questions about the Pro view? One feature, so that's the Pro view transaction. If you're in Pro view, the settings tab is the feature that you really want to know about the most as well. Settings tab, because this is where a lot of your features can be set up. My preferences for a lot of sorting and filtering and preferences, as it might be. So I click there on continue, so we can take a look at password management if you want to make sure you get that password, transaction settings, form settings. If you really want to change the font style, color, and size of all the forms, fillable fields, you can change that. By default for everyone, it's Courier, bold, black, and 9-point. If you want to change that to something else, you have that opportunity to do so. Question was regarding the company logo to brand your forms library. It's actually a website, it's an email address, logos@instanetsolutions.com, LOGOS, logos@instanetsolutions.com. If you email us your logo, we can brand your forms library with that logo. And there's a whole bunch of cool features in here. The DocBox print driver is a pretty neat little tool to virtually print documents directly into transaction files. The emailing feature is really stepping up the emailing in, but our print driver is a nice tool in order to print documents directly into your transaction files as well. So print driver is available through the Lite view. One feature, while that kind of loads up, I always like to point out, where can you see all this stuff again? As we scroll down to the bottom of the page, at the bottom of every functional page in either Lite view or Pro view, you see a link down here to live support. Live support will take you to a page that gives you access to toll-free numbers, recorded videos and things like that, anything from 1 to 3 minute how do I's all the way up to 45-minute, 60-minute complete overview sessions. So that live support link, both here at the bottom of every functional page in both Pro and if I click back onto Lite, same link is available through the Lite view to get to that live support to access links and phones and. Yeah, if there's a few, if you predominantly prefer Lite, but a couple features in Pro that you want to work with, just click over to Pro and use those features, come back to Lite. Just that easy. So I'm back in Lite. If I want to go to Pro to do a few things, click over to Pro. The view that you log out of will be the view that you log back into, but you can toggle back between the two at any time during your session. And it is, again, it is part of your member benefit. It is part of your random member benefit. There are absolutely no additional costs to use any of these features. All of our services are free and unlimited based on those membership dues to random. The question was unique forms or custom office forms. We do offer custom programming services, so you can provide us the forms and we'll program and post them into your office form library. There may be some costs associated with that, but if you deliver them to us, our forms team will review the forms, contact you back regarding questions or cost, and then if you decide to move forward with it, sign quote back and they'll begin the programming process. But it is a service that we do offer, absolutely. That was in this particular demo account. It showed multiple MLSs. I'm not sure that if I can't quantifiably say if you are a member of multiple MLSs that you'll see multiple in that drop-down list. Sometimes you have to log in. So if you're a member of, say, Santa Fe, and you log in through their because they're Paragon there, so you would log in through your Paragon account to access your Santa Fe account. Here you would log in through Flex to access GAAR and the Flex account. So not necessarily, maybe exactly. Unfortunately, a little bit like. Any other questions, comments, general observations? Anything we saw, didn't see, hoped we would saw? One thing that you can do, and I'm trying to get back over to transactions, there's a feature right in there with populating from templates. There's another option to populate from an existing transaction. So if you create the first one, you can generate follow-up transactions based on that original one. It essentially copies all the MLS detail, contacts, and all that information from your primary transaction to create, I shouldn't say primary, your first transaction to create those additional transaction files. So it just saves you having to redundantly add the same information over and over again. Right? Well, we would come to here where we're wanting to create. So if we created the first one, maybe from our template, here when we want to create that second transaction, we would choose from an existing transaction file. And then it'll show you all the transaction files that you created and say, okay, I want to create this new one based on this file, or you choose the one that you want to replicate into this new file. Yeah, so it's such a... Ken, the one thing about the new transaction, I don't believe it brings over forms or documents. It's mostly details, dates, contact information, and not as much forms and documents. So it'll get all that property information in there, and then you can add your forms and documents as you would need to for that new transaction. Okay. Yep. Right. That is a great, and if you have about, let me go over to Pro. Let's do it like this. Let me click on here. Let me click on this transaction desk. We're going to start a new residential sale file for this one. I just click on that link. It's going to pop up. And of course, it blocked it. So let me always allow that to happen. And then we'll do it again. So this time it won't block my pop-up. So again, so it's creating this new residential sale transaction file directly from that MLS ID. It's logging me to my account. It's going to populate. So from the Pro view, what I can do now is go into import data, and it will bring in our template into this file now that it started from the MLS. Yeah, on the Pro view side. When we get to that transaction overview, I would like to import data, and then you could choose your template and then pull all those forms and documents into that file that you just started from the one-click transaction. So hopefully that here will get to starting. So many tabs. It is spinning. We can kind of see it spinning up there. And hopefully it'll get it here in just another minute or two. I think what time do we start the next one? 3? Or right now? Oh, right now. Okay. Thank you very much. I don't know why this one. Close that.